Okay, I wanted to talk to you about a method of argument construction or argument analysis. I think originally it was intended as argument analysis, and it was developed by a philosopher known as Stephen Toulmin, and philosopher during the 1950s. And basically, it was a way to kind of analyze, take apart arguments. It was based primarily on three things: claims, warrants, and evidence. And we've already talked already about claims, which are things that you're trying to say, points that you're trying to make, and evidence, which is evidence that backs up what you're trying to say. So, what is this warrants thing? The warrants is a situation that makes something important or meaningful, that it's warranted in some way. So, um, oftentimes the warrant is found in a because statement, and sometimes the because statement isn't actually stated. So, it's an underlying kind of premise, an assumption. Frequently involves a value, something shared by the speaker and the listener, or the writer and the reader. And so, do be aware that there are these claims, warrants, and evidence, and they're probably in your own writing, but you may not always see the warrants in there. The Toulmin method goes off a little bit further in several different directions and includes things like qualifiers and exceptions and rebuttals and other things. But one of the things that I like about it is that it leads toward that method of paragraph development that I've been harping on: observe, connect, interpret, and evaluate. Um, so rather than, we tend to base our claims on evidence. We tend to work from that evidence upward toward the claims thing. But as writers, we get the ability to state our claim and then show the evidence. Um, so it helps you to foreground your ideas. Your ideas become the driving force in the paper. It becomes more truly rhetorical as a result. So what I might have you guys do, what I've done in the past, is have students look at their essays and try to identify the claims, the warrants, and the evidence. This helps to make sure that we have good claims throughout the essay, and then you have to kind of oftentimes construct what the warrant is. What is the because statement that underlies this? So, and it helps oftentimes, I think, to analyze your own paper as an argument in order to see how it could be broken down and reconstructed if necessary. Okay, so the Toulmin method, here we have a schematic of it, the warrant in the because statement, the claim in the therefore statement, but then as writers, we turn that around. We give our claim, and then the warrant may or may not be stated, but then we back it up with evidence or data. Okay, another argumentative strategy that we need to be aware of is something known as Rogerian argument. Rogerian argument developed or codified by a philosopher, again, and psychologist during the 1950s, Carl Rogers, and I think he was primarily a psychologist, but Carl Rogers, basically, the thing behind Rogerian argument is that frequently we're in a rush to make our point, and so we're in an argument with someone, parents, roommates, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whatever, and we will say, I hear what you're saying, but. And so we make a rush to this but statement. And Rogers says we have to slow down. We have to say, I hear what you're saying. And we have to take 2 or 3 minutes to fully explain the other person's point of view. And in fully explaining the other person's point of view, you can almost physically see their tension melting away. You can see them relaxing. They're no longer defensive, and so they become much more open and receptive to an alternative viewpoint, argument against their own. And so Rogerian argument is very important to try to getting your argument across. Your audience, for this essay, primarily people who do not agree with you. So because they don't agree with you, they're going to be stuck in their position, and you have to find a way to get them to soften their stance, their position, in order to be receptive to your argument. So based on the importance of listening in order to be heard, so if you can get the sentiment across to someone that they are being heard, then they'll be more willing to hear you. Requires the writer to show that they fully understand counter-arguments to their argument. So those counter-arguments that we use close to the end, again, they help to strengthen your argument rather than erode your argument. And as I said before, counter-arguments can either be accommodated or refuted, just as long as they're addressed in some way. So that makes people, more receptive to your argument. And as I say here at the end, don't be in a rush to get to the big but statement. We want to say, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but. And we just kind of brush their viewpoints aside. But the more you can fully articulate someone else's position, then the more successful you'll be in resolving issues between the two of you. Okay, another thing to keep in mind in this paper, the importance of tone. That in academic writing, we try to project a calm and reasonable tone. So we don't get to pounding our fist on the podium, yelling at the audience and having them yell back. Those are things that happen a lot of times at campaign rallies. So where they only let in the people who are going to be cheerleaders for whatever the speaker says. But those people are the converted. They're the choir, so to speak. And so most of the time when you're laying out your argument in argumentative, persuasive writing, you're not dealing with people who are cheering you on. Instead, you're dealing with people who are more resistant to your ideas and kind of set in their ways. And so you have to engage in this calm and reasonable tone. You can't just be combative with them. So who is your audience? People who already agree with you and people who don't already agree with you. Your audience is people who don't already agree with you. And failure to use a calm and reasonable tone, to get kind of haughty or strident in your tone, can result in the people that you're trying to influence becoming further entrenched in their own positions. So tone is very important to successful argument. Okay, and then lastly, I'm kind of tying some of this together. I wanted to talk to you about yet another Greek term, enthymemes. An enthymeme is a logical argument in which one of the premises is missing or implied. So I give you an example of a logical argument here. Socrates is a man, all men must die, therefore Socrates must die. But we could turn that into an enthymeme if we just took out one of the premises. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates must die. We don't need that all men must die in there. Philosophers, logicians would want to enumerate all those steps of reasoning, but we understand our own mortality. So we understand that if we are humans, then we must die. But the enthymeme not only removes one of the premises, usually the missing premise involves a value of some sort. So the example I gave here is for cleaner, whiter teeth, use Crest toothpaste. The implication is that you want cleaner, whiter teeth, that it's somehow good, it's valued. So we don't have to say that. The argument makes sense without all of the premises. And Aristotle said, in terms of these enthymemes, which are primarily involving values, he said more than anything else, the enthymeme is what makes rhetoric work. It's not everything that we say. It's actually oftentimes the things that we don't have to say. It's the glue in between all the words that we're putting down on paper. So I think that's about it for this lecture. And as I think of more thoughts, I'll try to convey them to you as well. Thank you.